And for our final presenter on this panel is a gentleman that, in echoing D'Angela's statements earlier, I know I have taken a page and inspiration from his book. He is Arthur Turnbull, who is the co-founder of the Music Snobs LLC and producer of the Music Snobs on Film, and Entry Points podcasts. And it is just a pleasure to finally meet him in person, having appeared on numerous podcasts with him via the wonderful web that brings a lot of us together. And before I bring him up, I just wanted to clear up one thing. It's often been pointed out to me when I appear on our Inside the Album Prince and Prince-related podcast that I'm often the quiet one. I'll introduce our panel, and I'll do sort of like what I'm doing today. But just to clear it up, one of the things that I'm doing is I'm often listening as the lively conversation goes on, and I'm cooking dinner, and I'm grading papers, and I'm doing all sorts of fun things while the conversation is going on. So I didn't want you to think that I was asleep or anything like that. But let's get ready for something that I know is just going to be magnificent, and turn you over to the very able hands of Arthur Turnbull.
Good afternoon. Okay. Oh, this is the clicker. All right. It's a real pleasure to be here. I'm really humbled and thankful to have been invited back for another one of these symposium. I really do think that this forum is really important, and it's good to have everyone on such a really fine day, and I'm going to hopefully provide something useful for the community. So my topic is it's called An Answer to the Question of You, and of course that song does not appear on the Batman soundtrack. However, it is one of the centerpieces of the new tour. And it was kind of a rarity that Prince would perform a song in the set list, nearly smack dab in the middle of the set list, that had not been released. Through the majority of the tour, no audience had heard this song before. And he had done things like that before, but usually during an encore. The Purple Rain tour, he would come out in an encore, and I remember the show that I went to in March of 1985, he played America, and then a month later, Around the World in a Day was released. Of course, during the Lovesexy tour, part of the show was his performance of Bob George, and he also did a performance of Super Funky Califragisexy. However, there were some people in the audience, even though the Black Album had been removed by Prince personally, that had heard the song, sang along right with him. So it was kind of a nod and a wink that I know you know what this is. Some of you don't, but some of you do. So having this song in the new tour, which was surrounded by hits and three selections from the Batman soundtrack, was a complete rarity. Quick show of hands. Has anyone not heard The Question of You? You really? Oh, okay, I was gonna say, get out. It's one of my favorite songs, and it's one of the most compelling songs, and certainly memorable because of the guitar solo that's in the song that I consider a second verse in a musical language. But it didn't start out as part of the tour. It started out as a warm-up. And I'm not doing the clicker right. There we go. This man, when am I ever going to get a picture to show to talk about Big Chick? Charles Big Chick Humphrey was the head of security for Prince from 1982 to 1985. You can see him briefly in Purple Rain. You see him carrying Prince on his back throughout several YouTube videos and award shows and parties, just to get him from a quick A to B. He also was mentioned in a song called Old Friends for Sale. After Chick left Prince's service, he had sold a story to the National Enquirer, in part to support an addiction that he had. But he overcame that addiction, and in the late 80s started his own ministry. And he died suddenly in the spring of 1990. And because of the bond that they had, Prince, in a very public show of philanthropy, but just out of love, held a benefit concert for the family and raised $50,000 at a club called Rupert's in April of 1990. Short time thereafter, a few days, within a week, he did a warm-up concert for the new tour in St. Paul in an arena, and then took the tour overseas. Interesting thing about the performance here, Prince did premiere The Question of You, but he did not sing it. It was all guitar, and then it segued into the Muddy Waters cover of Electric Man. It's also part of the new tour performance. Quick note. In St. Paul, he did actually sing the song. So that full-on was a dress rehearsal, and everyone actually heard the song. Whether or not you remember the lyrics is another thing, because in a concert setting, particularly if it's something you're not familiar with, you're not always going to know what he's saying. And we're going to get to the lyrics in just a moment. But I want to discuss a song called 12 Keys. This was a song that was part of what are referred to as the Paisley Sessions. It was an instrumental that was recorded with a myriad of other instrumentals at Sunset Sound Studios in December of 1985. And 12 Keys wasn't necessarily the official title so much as it was a way of Eric Leeds to be able to kind of keep track of what it was that they were recording. So Eric Leeds dubbed this as 12 Keys. So we're hearing Prince on piano, of course Eric Leeds on saxophone, and that's Sheila E. playing drums. The origins of this song are found in another composition that was recorded some months earlier, now we're in 1985, called Under the Cherry Moon. The songs are in the same key of B minor, and they're both they're both a waltz. And a waltz is, of course, a dance. If you've ever heard the Nutcracker Suite from Tchaikovsky, nearly the entire album is a waltz. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And part of the magic of The Question of You in its recorded form, released form, that we all know is that it's a waltz that's masked as a blues. So we've got that boom, boom, and we've got that searing, blues, expressive guitar solo, but it's because of the waltz, it allows Prince to be able to have the room and the fluidity to structure the lyrics the way that he does, even to play the guitar the way that he does, and the waltz is actually exposed in two areas in the song. Toward the end of it, where you hear a harpsichord, and also in the final lyric that we'll see also. But while it's easy to kind of get the blues structure, dum, dum, boom, 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 it's easy to miss the waltz. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Yeah? So each beat being a group of being a group of 8 notes in a triplet pattern. All my drummers here. The lyrics of the question of you. This is kind of my favorite slide. It's a lyrical pattern that Prince, that I can remember in the music library of my mind, that he only did 2 other times. But here we have 6 questions, and then we have 1 declarative statement, and then the repeat of the first line. What is the answer to the question of you? This pattern is something that he had done early in his career with another famous song, Controversy. But it's flipped. He starts a verse with a declarative statement, I just can't believe all the things people say. And then he asks some questions, some rhetorical questions. Am I black or white? Am I straight or gay? Do I believe in God? Do I believe in me? Do you get high? Does your daddy cry? Yeah. He also followed this in a looser fashion with Pop Life. What's the matter with your life? Is poverty giving you down? Did the mailman jerking you around? Did he put your $1 million check in someone else's box? And then a declarative. Tell me, right? So it's this rare device that that kind of works for him. But he used it very, very, very sparingly. Whether intentional or unintentional, it's nice to see how Prince can sometimes come all the way back to a space and yes, repeat himself, but do a what's the word for it? A modified version of something that's unique, but in a way that doesn't make it stale. It's stale. It's kind of where I'm trying to get to. So now, about the lyrics. What's the answer to the question of you? What do I look for? What shall I do? And many of us saw the concert last night, and we saw the performance of the question of you. For the benefit of those who weren't here, that video, that question of you video, is part of the Prince Estate's YouTube channel. So you can go and you can watch him perform this song. And a key thing about it is as he starts to sing, what is the answer to the question of you, he points out to the audience. So naturally, you would think that this song, he's talking to a person. Now I say naturally because, I consider myself normal. And I say it in that way because I do a show called The Music Snobs, and The Music Snobs is a 3-man show, talk show, and sometimes we have guests on the show. And a show that we did on Valentine's Day of last year was with the producer Salam Remy. And the subject had to do with the future of the ballad. So we're talking about love songs and how the magic of the construction of the ballad and the difference between the slow jam and it's got nothing to do with Prince, but everything to do with Prince at the same time. But sometimes, because we're all Prince nerds, and let me just make this declarative thing. This is some Prince deep-level nerd stuff that I'm about to talk about, okay? Just want to make that clear from the gate. We deviate and get into these mini debates over, Prince minutia. So what you're about, now mind you, we got a guest. So what you're about to hear is kind of an edited version of this side conversation where Salam Remy literally is just like what's happening?
Isn't it pretty simple? Doesn't it just hinge on who the you is in the title? The you being him.
No, the girl. The you is the girl.
No. The you, and Salam, back me up on this, because I know you've been right here with me on everything. So don't fail me now.
Don't
the
feel any
you
pressure,
in that
bro.
conversation.
Don't let him bully you.
The you in that conversation. The question of you. What is the answer to the question of you? Is not the question of the other person. It's
Who
the question
talks about
of
themselves
you.
in the third person?
Prince.
So that was myself, Isaac Perry, and Jahan having this side conversation. And we eventually, remembered that we had a guest and kind of got back on track. So this who is the you? And as you could discern in the excerpt, my position, and Jahan agreed with me, is that, well, Prince, he's talking to a woman. He's talking to a love interest. And it's a pattern of Prince songs where he deals with, rejection, being used, being strung along. If I was your girlfriend, why you want to treat me so bad? There must be something in the water. It works for him, right? But Isaac, his position was, well, wait a minute. He's being introspective. What's the question of me? Like, who am I? What is my identity? Where am I going in this life? Going deeper, and then, we were surface. So he'll be happy to know that I've really considered his view. And when this opportunity came up to talk about the question of you, I really wanted to look at, okay, well, what is the answer? Who is the you? Because, it could very well be that he is being introspective. And being the Prince nerd that I am, I decided, let's try to find out. So while I was not able to really find out when Prince wrote the lyrics, because that was also part of the crux of my argument, where it was like, okay, well, if it was before, say, 1987, late 86, Isaac, you might have something there, because he began to talk a little more personal. Forever in My Life jumps to mind, where he was talking about his engagement to Susanna Melvoin, But if it was before that time, maybe, but, probably not. Do You Lie, Kiss, Horny Toad, great B-side. Probably not. So anyway, what I was able to find, with some help, this is an early draft of Graffiti Bridge. And what you're seeing here is this lead character, Camille, and a notation that this line is going to be sung. You're looking at the entire verse of the question of you, with the exception of the declarative, which is music is like an amusement park, each quarter ride, and I don't know what to do. What is the answer to the question of you? I don't sing, nor will I attempt to do this. So just hum it in your head. So what this tells me is that, okay, for my own little theory, it's after 1987. And note the date, October 1987, the fall of 1987. Well, something that is very important in Prince's career, an event happens in the fall of 1987 where he's at Paisley Park Studios and he has this experience where he sees this vision, and what he sees is the word God in front of him. And he documents this in an interview for Rolling Stone magazine with the writer Neil Carlin. And Neil Carlin wrote two cover stories, one in 1990, which I just referenced, and the first one, Prince Talks, in 1985. And Carlin was asking him about why he pulled the Black Album. And Prince just, he simply said, well, something happened. And when I saw the word God, I knew I had to do something different. And so once that happened, like, a lot of stuff changed. Particularly, Lovesexy happened. And this is the graphic from the Lovesexy Symposium last year, Brooklyn, New York. And what came out about that was Lovesexy in the context of a gospel album, and how Prince went from Darkness, the Black Album, to Light, Lovesexy. And he begins to connect and reconnect his relationship to spirituality, and create a more positive face on his music and his career. The costuming, much more colorful than, and he's always been associated with colors, but they've been darker shades. I get the banana suit from the parade period, but we got turquoise jumping off, we got hot pink jumping off. But sorry, I'm clicking, I'm hitting my notes. Forgive me, I know what I want to talk about. Lovesexy itself. Lovesexy, he defines as the feeling you get when you fall in love, not with a boy or girl, but with the heavens above. Lovesexy is a 2 to 3 year period in Prince's life that actually culminates with the film Graffiti Bridge, where in that original draft, what Camille is trying to do as sort of like a plot device is he's trying to find the grand progression, the perfect song. And this is the spiritual walk that he's taking, okay? That's part of this Lovesexy period. And even though these albums are presented like as silos, they don't exist in silos in Prince's mind. And I do believe that he is, in this period, trying to either reconcile, definitely reconnect, and define spirituality in his own life. Right down to the costuming. It's really interesting. I always thought it was really interesting that Prince has his name on his thigh, on his right thigh. And it kind of came to me that John the Revelator, in chapter 19, verse 11, John the Revelator saw heaven standing open, and through it he saw a white horse whose rider is called Faithful and True. A few verses later, chapter 19, verse 16, I believe, in Revelations, on this rider's robe and on his thigh, he has his name written, King of Kings and Lord of Lords. So on Prince's thigh, his right thigh, I like to walk and point, his right thigh has got his name as a symbol of this child or this affiliate of this writer called Faithful and True. So if he's not necessarily sending a message out to us, he of himself is tattooing on himself who he is and what he's about for those who are willing to recognize. So one other piece. Remember I said that the original declarative statement in the verse was different than what was the final release version. He changed this statement of confusion, unknowing, to a definitive statement. All of the questions in my life will be answered when I decide which road to choose. Now, in my early theory of, oh, no, Isaac, you're wrong, it's about a woman. Well, what's the answer to the question of you? If I'm lost, I don't know what to do. Should I become naked, no image at all? Basically, do I succumb to your every will in order for you to accept me? You know, he said something a little more similar in Automatic, but it was more like, you know, he was like sprung. You know, you ask me if I love you, it's automatic. Whatever you say, I'm rolling with it because it's automatic. You know, here in the question of you, the questions that he's asking are very, I don't know what to do. I don't know which way to go. Do I walk away from you or do I acquiesce to your will? You know, Isaac's introspective is like that. Well, what do I do? You know, am I going to change my life? What decisions am I going to make about myself in order to walk the right path? Well, in either scenario, all of these questions in my life will be answered when I decide which road to choose. Well, what road is that? I think it's a little bit deeper than just the introversion, who am I, what am I about? I think that it's a declarative of what do I do, God? How do I, you know, I have to decide to follow your path. And to put that into a question to find an answer to is really he's asking who is God in the question of you. Now, in putting this presentation together, and you can kind of tell it's not even, you know, I know it, but it was very difficult for me to not take myself into outer space once I got to this point. So I'm very sensitive in taking all of us into outer space, but walk with me just a little bit more, and I think I can prove this argument. This is the quote toward the end of Prince talking to Neil Carlin, explaining why he pulled the Black Album. And when he saw the word God, he was contextualizing this to say, when I talk about God, I'm not thinking about somebody coming out of the clouds, thinking about something a little more, you know, a little more solid, which lends me to believe that, yes, he actually is really trying to reconnect and think through who is God? How can I answer that question for myself? Because once I lock that in, I'm good. So re-looking at the lyrics just one more time, another thing that jumped out to me was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The fifth question, must I become naked, no image at all? Because Prince always has straddled physical sex and the spiritual God, it's easy to be like, you know, that's just, you know, Prince on his thing. But to look at it in a different way, in the context of Love Sexy, right? You know, like if it's food, right, and you were cooking, if you sprinkle a little Love Sexy on this, to become naked with no image at all, to basically take off Prince, the rock star, deal with me as a person. If I, better example, in Islam, one of the 5 pillars of the faith is to go to Mecca. Every able-bodied Muslim in his or her lifetime must go to Mecca, to the Kaaba, to perform circuits or circles around the Kaaba. And there are other parts of the ritual as well. But everyone, from the richest man in the universe to the poorest man in the universe, all wear the same white garment. So when you're all together, you have no idea who you are other than that they are your brother or sister in the faith, your solid equal. They become naked, no image at all. I believe that this album, The Rainbow Children, is Prince's musical declarative that he has answered that question for himself. This is the album after Love Sexy in which the entire album is an agenda, a spiritual agenda. And looking through Prince's career through the 90s, he straddles sex, love, physical sex, love, spiritual themes throughout Diamonds and Pearls to Raven to the Joy Fantastic. Even with Emancipation in 1996, after he's gone through the war with Warner Brothers, after he's written slave on his face, after he has changed his name to an unpronounceable symbol, he still on Emancipation has one song where he covers the Joan Osborne, beautiful song, the Joan Osborne song, One of Us, What If God Was One of Us? But he also has a song called Sex in the Summer, where he's chasing, it's kind of creepy, borderline underage girls, right? But you get it, right? It's you know, he's trying to work through this. He's in his 30-somethings, you know, he happens to be a rock star. He's had some real life experiences. He's trying to work through this. And from 1996, 1997, 1998 into New Power Soul, he forms a relationship with Larry Graham, who begins to tutor him into the faith of the Jehovah's Witnesses. The Rainbow Children is a concept album about that group, this Rainbow Children, who are in the enlightened ones. And in the song, we are straight from the sun, the Rainbow Children fly upon the wings, like a book, wings, of the new translation, which is the text of the Jehovah's Witnesses faith. And they are enlightened, and they are going door to door to enlighten others. And after this album, everything back, Musicology, 3121, Planet Earth, Artificial Age, all the way through there, he never deviated from that course. He changed, to our chagrin, he changed the lyrics to some of his songs and made himself an example for others of what it means to answer this question of you and walk that path. So, thank you. I could be wrong. It could have always been about a woman.